Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Rookie Cup Season 2. We are currently live with 6 minutes remaining, or 6.5 minutes remaining at Ibarra. Currently we've got complete Randy Steve. He's on provisional pole with a 38.0 at the moment. But before we get to the action, I've been joined tonight by commentary royalty Stairs.
Ahoy.
And our dear leader, El Chief.
Hoi.
So lads, the last time we were all together and commentated around was indeed the first Rookie Cup, which was here at Ibarra, first race, first round, first season, and we saw people off into the boonies, and well, we saw people
fly into the freaking crowd.
I've been sleeping in the pit lane ever since, and so thought since the Rookie Cup returned to Ibarra, I'd come out and say hello.
Hello.
Howdy. So last time out, we were at Londrina, where we saw David Keane. Well, he sort of schooled everybody. He sort of qualified lowly in the first race, and then obviously as the race come to him, and the more laps he did, the faster he got. And well, he's not here tonight, but obviously we've been joined by Steve. Well, some unknown Randy. We don't know if he's a member of the group, but he's here. And Shane Witt, who I believe last drove in the Rookie Cup last season. So it's good to see him back. And splitting
Certainly is. Steve is absolutely demolishing the field at the moment, over a second clear of Topher.
Yeah, Steve with an early 1 minute 8.0 is significantly faster at the moment, but we're not sure he's part of the group, so that'll be interesting.
Well, he will have to be a part of he will have to join the drivers briefing in Discord, and if he doesn't do that, he will probably be booted from the server, so that time could be for naught.
Well, I can tell you, I've done some research in the last 15 seconds, and apparently there are 10 Steves in this group. One of them, we know it's not, is Steve DeVries, which is Nedler's real name. We've also got Steve Hoare, Steve Bolger, Steve Bernaldo, Steve Burko, Steve Birchall, Steve Kozai-Hoppert, Steve Kirk, Stephen Templeton, and Stephen Apps. So it might be one of those guys.
So if your name's Steve, you're pretty much not welcome here, because we have enough. Don't have anything to add to that.
There's plenty of Steves for everybody.
Got a good collection, I think.
Yeah, I think we've got enough. So any Steves looking to join Automobilista Australia, please change your name. Please legally change your name, and you'll be free to join. But if your name's Steve, we do have.
We haven't got any Fabios, as far as I'm aware. So,
if your name is Steve and your last name is Yvette, I think we can allow you in, because I like the symmetry there.
And we don't have anyone called Roy either. Just check. Got 2 Troys, but no Roys.
You needed Stairs all along.
Witt has jumped into second place, only half a second off. So if Steve isn't too careful, he's gonna have Witt close in on that time of his.
And going also 38.0, I believe the lap record in time trial in these cars around this track is a 36. So that's to be 2 seconds off.
Well,
it's quite quick.
Someone off in the boonies behind Topher on the track there. Just trying to see who that is on the timing screen.
Yellow...
It looks like it might be Brendan Ross. No, it's Ads, beg your pardon. Ads, who last night was going strongly in the Brazilian Grand Prix until he crashed on the pit exit.
It did happen to... Oh, he almost loses it again at the penultimate chicane there.
Oh!
He's off into the boonies there. It's in the bump.
The boonies get frequented quite a lot by the drivers in this track. They almost have a magnetic allure about them.
They are, well, literal boonies, because as you can see around this track, and especially in the infield, there are trees and bushes where obviously cars can end up.
Brendan Ross has just moved up into second place with a 38.4. It's just immediately passed back by Shane Witt with a 38.3.
So
Mike Coulston appears to have just disappeared, and he's reappeared on the track there, so that's a bit interesting.
But
Well, he is in, I believe, Saudi Arabia, so his connection is, in the most political term possible, shit. And therefore we do get everyone going off at that last corner
it is a
as I
tricky.
become distracted.
It is a tricky place to brake for because that chicane, where that
No!
chicane is
Shane Witt is having an almighty effort on his hands to keep the car under control. He's trying to reply to Steve, who's made it. He's back in the pits, so he won't be doing anything else in this qualifying session with a little over a minute left.
yeah, he doesn't have enough time to set a lap. Stairs, it's probably advised that you probably check yourself in a hospital after that. I think you're having an aneurysm.
Oh, you've heard my commentary before, don't you?
I have, but I don't
Happens
think I've heard.
often.
Don't think I've heard a noise quite like that. So it's a new one.
That's all right. Underwear's still the same colour it was this morning, and I'm happy as Larry, who incidentally isn't here. But Brendan Ross in third.
Do we have any Larrys in the group?
Check.
And while that's going on, we've got Topher.
No results for Larry.
We've got Topher and Ads going at it on track in the middle of qualifying at the moment. So hopefully this is a sign to come.
Ad's perhaps trying to gain a little bit of slipstream off of Topher, although not much of that to be found in this technical part of the circuit.
Topher's all over the place. He's sort of drifting that mini about everywhere. I don't think his tyres will be liking that too much. Obviously, a change from round 1 to round 2, and this will be a change for the remainder of the season in the Rookie Cup, is that there is now...
Coulston lagging up ahead as well. Gone.
Yes, there's going to be 2 times tyres and 2 times fuel rate. So instead of there just being the 1 times, you're going to have to look after your tyres a little bit better here.
Yeah, we decided the chaos that we had last season at this track was so entertaining that we should try and double it this time around.
So that's the end of the qualifying session. I believe everyone's finished their laps except for, I did see one car parked in the pits.
No one else on track by the looks of it.
Alright, that's
on a lap. So Steve's advantage was cut to 0.3 of a second by Shane Witt.
And even Brendan Ross coming within 0.4 of a second. So they're the front 3. So obviously we've got Steve currently on provisional pole with a 38.0, but he does have to join us for the driver's briefing. We've got Shane Witt in P2, Brendan Ross in P3. They're covered by 0.4 of a second. And we've got Topher, who's a little bit further back. Luke Joyner in P5. Ads P6, and well, he has returned. It is the Big Duke. He's in P7.
Duke.
And we have Mike Coulston, Brian Walsh, Glenn Miles, who is followed by Aussie. Now we'll be taking a short break as obviously there's a driver's briefing to take place, but we will be back shortly. Hello and welcome back. We've had our drivers briefing. Unfortunately, had a minor technical issue with my game crashing, so that's never good. But we're back with 30 seconds remaining in the warm-up. So the drivers have been told what to expect, what to do, and what not to do. Hopefully. So
Better your game crash tonight than on a race night for you, Lewis.
yes. Well, that's not exactly been the problem. That's more been an internet problem. So hopefully that's been solved now. But that's we'll wait and see for the remainder of the season as we see that orange Mini. I think I was Luke all over the shop, and well, he's going around. So we've got some action already in the warm-up.
Who needs racing?
Oh, and he's almost rolled it.
And I've missed the whole thing.
And I believe we've just ticked over. So, gentlemen, well, we've got newcomer Steve has whacked it on pole position with a 38.0. Looked pretty quick throughout, and obviously Shane Witt also pretty quick, but Brendan Ross not far behind. So the front four tenths of a second between them. Would you say is out of those three?
Well, never say never, but it seems to be one of those who probably run away with it by the looks of the times we've been seeing. But Steve has been really quite impressive early on in the qualifying session. So depending on how consistent he may well run off with it. Took the other guys a little while to get on terms with him pace-wise.
I'd like to see Steve and Big Dog racing each other closely, because I think that would be a remarkable challenge to commentate on.
Not wrong.
But I'm going to go a little bit left field here and say Topher win personally. He's shown a lot of form in races especially. He's never been the greatest of qualifier. And he normally does come on a bit for the race. So I wouldn't say I'd expect it, but just to go a little bit outside the box on terms of what we've seen in qualifying.
He always seems to do better in races where his qualifying isn't quite as good or as close to the front as what he'd hope. We saw that last year at this circuit where he didn't qualify very well, but he fought his way through the pack and was a chance. Well, he finished second behind, can't remember who won that race, but they won both races, and that was them done.
We've got Aussie, who has yet to leave his grid spot on the formation, and he's gone back to the pits.
Well, if he has been watching the broadcast, he'll know that he's not allowed to exit the pit lane until the light goes green, otherwise he will be disqualified.
If you're watching Sando, yes, he's talking about you.
And various other, not the only one that's happened to. I believe Rambo came a cropper in Laguna Seca in the Formula 3s to the very same problem.
It's caught many people out in both R-Factor, Automobilista, and a few other sims that have the same sort of system, where if you miss the grid, you can start, but you have to start from the pit lane, but some people find it difficult to fight the temptation of staying behind the line and just want to get going and find themselves disqualified. So, as we're halfway through this formation lap, we'll go through the grid. So, we've got number 87, Steve, pole position. You got Shane Witt, lucky 13 for him, hopefully. P2, Brendan Ross in P3, Topher, his arch nemesis right behind him in P4. Got Luke Joyner in P5, Ads P6, the Big Dog in P7. He's followed by Mike Coulston, and there's Brian Walsh behind him, but he's a couple cars behind in the formation lap. But behind him is Glenn Miles, and then there is Aussie in the pits. And obviously the pit lane here, or the garages I should say, are behind the final turn, so he's going to be very disadvantaged.
That's if he gets out of his garage. He hasn't emerged from it yet. He's not actually waiting.
Perhaps
to leave his tent, so interesting to see what's going on there.
He's probably just waiting for them to form up.
Well, the trouble with the pit lane here is that it's parking in tents.
I want Foley back.
I'm stunned. So,
well, we've rid it up. We're about ready
Someone's
for
happy with that joke.
And we are racing. We're away. And it looks like Shane Witt's got the jump. And
Yes, Steve not having the best starts there.
Topher's got a good start, and he's got the slipstream. He's going to move up into P2. And Ross and... who is it? That is Ads, side by side. So Ads has had a good start. Now they're through the tricky bit. Will we see anybody make a mistake through here? Okay so far.
We got going defensive here. Topher looks like he's going to go around the outside into the lead.
And we've got... It was that was Stoive getting all kinds of sideways through turn 3 there, but he's held on to it. We've got a car off in the background.
Oh, we got another car off in the background with...
and then Stoive,
Gary Neville. He's held it.
Off in the boonies there. Might have had a little bit of a serve, or he might have lost it on his own. Didn't quite see it.
Ross and Ad side by side. Oh, Ross winning that battle. Shane trying to put Topher under pressure for the lead.
So Topher's actually got in front of Shane into turn 3 there. And, well...
Steve back down in 7th place, and we, Aussie 10th.
So...
And he's now being classified as having retired from the race, so not even making the formation lap there for Aussie, which is unfortunate.
Sad days.
So there's Topher, Witt, Ross, Ads, Luke Joyner, Mike Coulson, and then Stoive. And then we've got Miles and Neville side by side there. And they go through the chicane side by side. And Miles is off. He cut the chicane. But
big dog has run wide.
And he's almost
that's very close.
Really swiped across his front there. Glenn Miles would have seen his life flash between his eyes.
Between his eyes?
Yes.
I think Big Dog might have been going for him there. It certainly looked pretty rough, but looks like Ross has dropped Ads and he's now putting Shane Witt under a little bit of pressure. So obviously Topher's got a little bit of a gap up at the front, and
it just gets a little bit sideways there, as you say. That is 1.4 seconds up though, so you can afford a little mistake like that, but we'll be hoping not to repeat it.
Interesting stat with the top 3. Topher, Witt and Ross each had a faster sector time on the first lap, but none of them, all of them seeming to have advantages in different parts of the racetrack.
Yeah, Witt seems to be fastest through that first sector, as that gap's now come down to under a second, and it starts to stretch back out again.
Following Ross in that middle sector in practice, he was very quick in that middle sector, and we've already seen he's already closed up quite a bit on Witt on this lap alone, so he's quite adept at the turns and perhaps not the quickest stuff.
Yeah, Witt just over 2/10.
Oh, I'm saying there's a Stoive. He's lost it in the background and he's dropped down a couple of positions. He
was putting the car in front, Mike Coulson, under some pressure, but.
We got Topher off the track out of the last corner. Sorry to cut across you there, Stairs. It looks like Witt is going to have a run on him up here.
It's going to be a drag down to turn 1, and
Ross with a watching brief too.
Ross will he'll get a good run and probably will overtake him. Looks like Shane's got the position.
Ross sets the fastest lap.
As Topher goes wide again, but he
gets away with that one.
Keeps his foot in it.
We've seen what can happen if you go off there.
Both Witt and Topher ran a little bit wide through there, and that's giving Ross a good run.
The inside.
He's locks the inside, gets it stopped though. Topher relegated to 3rd. He'll fight back, but I don't think he'll have him into the next corner. Ross, nice job.
Nice and clean, nice and tidy from Ross there. He looks the quicker of the 3 right now. He's after that first win. Obviously he was very close in the first round, but mistakes once again cost him, and he's taken the lead, so he takes...
Steve's in trouble, boys. He is off the track, trundling around at very, very slow speeds.
You just had Brian Walsh run off as well back there in 8th place at the minute. He just ran a little bit
he's
wide.
He's a lap down too, I believe, Steve, so something must have happened.
He's not showing a lap down on my screen.
The timing screen on mine is going haywire. He's not actually getting a gap to the next car. I'm wondering if I reckon have a spin here and miss one of the checkpoints quite easily. And
no, he has. We've just seen it on the replay. I believe a car came out of the pits. Oh no, it was car 27. I can't remember who that is. They were side by side through turn 1. And got a little bit caught out, did Steve, and lost it.
He's in the pits.
Went into
Oh, we've just had Neville run very wide out of that corner as well. Sorry to cut across you there, Lewis.
And Steve found himself in the boonies and in the middle sector. He turned on into the middle sector, and that's put him now on a lap down. So that's him. That's unfortunately ruined his race. He didn't rejoin back at turn 1.
And to compound matters, he's now in the pits, and I think he might be repairing damage because he was very slow to come into his pit box.
Oh, as you see, Topher is sort of warping a little bit there. So, we've got Ross. He's 7/10 in front of Witt at the moment. Witt seems to have calmed down a little bit, and
he has actually closed the gap up in the last half a lap or so, because that gap was a few tenths further out as they crossed the line.
Yeah, so he sort of set him.
We do know that Witt is faster through that first sector, and on this lap he was 3 tenths faster in the first sector than Ross. So about 2 tenths between them on their best laps, but so far that doesn't really seem to be the approach to take here, with cars obviously having difficulty staying on track.
It looks like
Glenn Miles is absolutely glued to the back of Big Dog and has been for a number of laps now. That's a fierce battle.
Cut to that.
They're coming up to Brian Walsh as well, like on my timing.
Yeah, Brian Walsh is just in front of him as he takes an interesting line through that right-hander there. So I think Brian Walsh is pitted as Glenn Miles on the marbles. He's going to run wide there.
Just had Brendan Ross taking a very wide line through the final corner. It doesn't appear to have cost him anything to Shane Witt. In fact, it looks like he stretched the gap coming down the home straight.
Well, Topher of the top 3 on the last lap was the quickest, only by a hair, but he was just a little bit faster than Shane Witt, and Shane Witt and Topher were 3 tenths faster than Brendan Ross on that last lap.
Ads is putting Luke Joyner under some pressure. He's closing in ever so slightly.
And they're not falling too far behind the front 3 either, so if something does happen up the front, these guys could be in line for a possible podium too.
Had Big Dog get through on Brian Walsh. Yeah, haven't seen the move there, but the timing screen does have Big Dog ahead of him.
Walsh did make a slight mistake. We were following behind him. He made a slight mistake, and that allowed the Big Dog to get through. As we right on board Ads. Looks like Luke is working those front tyres very hard. I don't think his will last too long the way he's been driving it.
I was just going to say the same thing about our race leader Brendan Ross. They're seeing not a lot, but a fair bit of smoke coming from him through the corners.
He dropped into the 1 minute 40s last lap around the 2 behind him, both in the 39s.
Runs wide again in that final corner, does Brendan Ross, and now the gap under half a second between him and Shane Witt.
Neville's up to the back of Coulston in this 2x2 event.
And Ads and Luke Joyner still going at it. We'll go back and have a look at Coulston and Neville. Coulston not quite close enough out of that final turn, and you can see Neville sort of driving away from him a little bit as he rode on board with him.
Big Dog's made a mistake somewhere. He's dropped back behind Walshy and Miles, back into 10th place.
Yep, certainly has. Down 3 spots from where he started. And Walshy is kept Glenn Miles behind him.
Shane Witt's gone around. Shane Witt's gone around.
Yellow flag, yes. He's gone back to 5th place with that mistake, so very costly. So that's taken the pressure off Brendan Ross.
Haven't seen what's happened there as I was leaving Smartass come to the stream.
so go back and have a look. So what's he done? He's gotten pretty close here to Brendan Ross coming into turn 2. So he's ran wide. He's run wide at turn 2.
It looks like we've had issues with Topher as well. He's now 4.5 seconds behind Brendan Ross.
Yeah, that was only 2 seconds just a few moments ago. So Brendan Ross looking pretty good for a win here. Don't want to speak too early.
So Shane Witt, what he did at turn 3, he lost it under braking, and had a little bit of a spin. Unfortunately for him, in the lake behind him, there was a ferry full of tourists, and they're all taking photos in the back there, so that'll be a bit embarrassing a bit later on.
The bigger issue there is
and we
the
see
Ibarra monster.
And
Adds in the pits.
Adds in the pits, the first one to blink. Obviously looking to undercut.
And so too Shane Witt. So a flurry of activity in the pit lane. Witt and Ads first to blink on what would be considered a normal strategy, and Witt is very, very tight up behind Ads. Thankfully, Ads will probably get out in front of him.
We'll be hoping Ads doesn't have any damage to repair.
Car's off the jacks and off he goes.
Yeah, Ross and Topher will have to react to this rather quickly as well, because their tyres are struggling. Well, not struggling, but they have used quite a fair bit of their tyres so far.
That said, though, I think Ross has got a bit of breathing room, while I think Topher definitely has to make that move.
Steve has just done a 38.3 there. Sorry, Lewis.
Yeah, that is
absolutely on fire.
1.5 seconds.
Fastest. Sorry, go on.
1.5 seconds faster than the race leader. Unfortunately, he's a lap down after ending up crossing the circuit cutting the circuit in half, and off on the boonies, and finds himself a lap down.
Still one of the finest overtaking manoeuvres I've ever seen attempted.
He passed literally half the field in one manoeuvre.
Oh, that's what I mean. You couldn't do that.
I could, but whether I still have my all four wheels left on my car afterwards is another question.
Almost gave away a cheat that I know you can use at one track, but I won't do that. Let's just say you can cut a quarter of it out and the game will not be.
Oh, Brian Walsh is off.
Brian Walsh is off in the boonies.
And we see Topher and Joyner both entering the pits, but we'll go back and have a look at Brian Walsh. What has he done?
Crucial time in the race to see whether they are going to get over in the car. And Luke Joyner had to drive around Topher there, and Topher's going to find it very difficult to get out of his spot. And we've also got Mike Coulston in the pit stop.
Coulston in. We
Oh,
have behind.
Topher's going to have to reverse to get out of his grid slot here. This is very. Oh no!
Oh, he's squeezed by. He is
Oh.
squeezed by. That would have cost him a second or two, but he managed to get by.
That's going to drive him crazy with Joyner exiting immediately after he gets past.
I believe that happened to him. I don't know if it was him. It did happen to someone in the round here last year.
Yeah, I think that was Topher actually.
So 2 seasons in a row it's cost him, but this time he didn't run in the back of him. He could just get out.
Yes, you can't drive through cars in the pit lane like iRacing, as some people have found out the hard way. And Luke Joyner gets on the curb there, very well held.
Well, I don't know if Topher had any damage, but that's cost him a significant amount of time.
Yeah, the gap between he and Ross is currently 32.5 seconds. He'll just have to use every single bit of those tyres he can right now in order to try and close that gap down a bit.
He was about 4 seconds behind when he pitted, so it would be interesting to see what Ross does, or what the gap is will be when obviously Ross exits the pits. And it looks like
Ross should be coming in.
He's coming in.
Yeah, his tyres are definitely not in the best of shape from the data I can see. Both of these fronts are around the 50% mark, which in these cars is less than ideal.
That said, he still wasn't going too badly.
Topher's got a clear track now, so he can try and make use of those brand new tyres.
Gary Neville in as well. Beat ya.
Scumbag. So we got Topher coming through the final turn. And
Ross is moving again. He's now out of the pit lane.
And well, we can see it now.
Yeah, that gap has not worked well for Topher. That gap's
I don't think it's cost as much time as I thought, but it still has cost him a fair amount of time. As we see Brian Walsh peel into the pits and Gary Neville exit. And he's going to be just behind Shane Witt, I believe. But they're going to go side by side. Yeah.
It's only cost Topher about a second there, maybe even less. So
at the round of pit stops, Luke Joyner's come out in third, so that's worked very well for him.
Well, I guess blocking your opponents does help us. Oh, Topher.
Oh, Topher! Topher! Oh, exploring the grass on the outside of the track.
Oh, we've got Ads and Shane Witt are both around. I wonder if Shane's attempted a move and is spun them both around there. We'll go back and have a look.
Got five cars converging on the same piece of tarmac here.
Got Gary Neville trying to lap Steve, who doesn't seem to want to get out of the way.
I think Steve is probably a little bit faster, so he probably doesn't want to get out of the way.
Sorry, should that be Steve and away?
So, into turn 3.
I guess not.
Oh, Glenn Miles! Oh, exploring the infield.
Well, what happened to Ads and Shane is that they both spun, or half spun well, it's like they're dancing together. Both went round in unison, but neither of them touched each other.
It takes two to tango, but they've given Luke quite a tremendous gap into in third place. He's quite comfortable, in fact, putting Topher under pressure with Topher's mistake earlier on.
And Topher's closed the gap down a little bit on that lap. But I think Ross from here could probably take it easy. He could, drive a second or lap slower and still be a second in front of Topher at the end of this race. So Topher's going to have to pull something out of the bag here if he wants to win this race. And Luke Joyner actually.
4/10 on the final sector of the previous lap. He found 4/10 of a second.
And that was after a mistake in that middle sector. So not too bad. But Luke Joyner on that last lap, fastest final sector. So he's found, as this race has gone on, he's found a bit of speed.
Certainly has. Current leader of the 1997 Formula One Championship. Winner of the Super Series Pro-Am. Also leading that championship in Season 2.
And he managed to do that without winning a race in Season 1, I believe, as well.
Remarkable effort. Scored a podium pretty much every second race. Third place was his best result all throughout that season.
It just shows that consistency and finishing. And if you do those things, it will do wonders for you.
Topher's just pulled a few car lengths.
Oh, Brendan Ross!
Oh, Topher's gone around. Topher is out. Topher's ripped the front end of that thing off. He's done. He is done. It's very easy to do with that chicane, and well, that Mini is #wrecked.
First and second having big issues at the same time. Not as bad for Brendan Ross. He got out onto the grass with his outside wheels and just sort of the backs tried to overtake the front, but he caught it early enough.
Well, Brendan
and
Ross
as that was going on, Topher decided, screw it.
Rossi was kissed on the dick by the fairies there because absolutely looked like he was going to give his lead up to Topher, and Topher was not a moment later off in the boonies.
Not quite style point. Oh no, we'll give him some style points. He well, the front end of that thing was wrecked. There was no bonnet, there was no front end, there was no front wheels. So I guess there is some silver lining to that accident. Is it in the rookies so far he leads. Topher leads the.
Sorry, Lewis. Shane Witt, Ads, and Mike Coulson are all very close together. Ads just.
Oh, they're side by side. Ads with a dive bomb. With a dive bomb, gets it back. He's been very...
Oh, he goes deep at the following corner, though. Onto the grass. Witt goes through, and so too does Ads. Coulston, beg your pardon.
Oh, Coulston.
Brian Walsh with a drive-through penalty.
Gary Neville quietly gets himself into third place here, and he's quite comfortably ahead of this warring trio.
He's up 3 spots. Both he and Ads have had... I'd say they've both had really good races. Obviously, Ads has made a couple of mistakes, but his pace has been not too bad in this one.
A quiet word for Mike Coulson as well in 5th place. He's effectively driving with one shoulder amputated as he has serious issues with his shoulder, and lately has been running with his force feedback turned off because the issue's been so bad. So doing very well here tonight, being in 5th place, and in quite a battle with these two around him.
And he's just been Ads has a look into the final turn. He's been nice and clean so far. He's up 3 spots. He's avoided many of the incidents around him and finds himself in a decent spot. As does Gary Neville, who's well, he's jumped up 9 spots. So he's had a fantastic run.
Speaking of fantastic runs, though, Ads may well be close enough to have a look into turn 3 if he can keep the nose in through here. Coulson going defensive.
Looks like Coulson's going to let him by. Yep, obviously Coulson doesn't want to be involved in an accident.
That was he backed out of it quite a lot.
I have seen Coulson do that once or twice in the Touring Car Championship, so I think it's just him not wanting to be involved in any silly accidents, and we did see on the last lap Ads having a massive dive on Shane Witt, so obviously...
I think it may actually just be that injury and it's taking too much out of him being in a race like that, and he just wants to be out there scoring points for now so he can be in a better position when he's able to come back in full fitness.
Do we know which...
As we saw with Dwayne Davies with the touring cars, he showed up while he could barely even get out of bed and got himself the points, and he's now still up the front of that championship.
Do we know which shoulder he has hurt? Because obviously having
one of them, it depends which way he's facing.
That's,
maybe if he faces the other way.
That's very insightful information there.
I didn't want to pry.
Well, if it's shoulder, if you're upside down's a hip, but nonetheless, it doesn't make it any easier.
Thank you. It's his left hip.
So with 2 laps to go,
Right
we've got Shane Witt closing down Gary Neville for that last podium position. Gary Neville constantly in the low to mid 1 minute 40s, while Shane Witt on that last lap was 131 or 139.1, I should say. So.
Well, happier than a pig in the proverbial. Brendan Ross, the only one in the 39s of the top 3.
That said, though, on the last lap, both Steve and Shane Witt were the quickest on circuit.
Steve's gone up a place with Brian Walsh having an issue somewhere and dropping to 2 laps behind.
He said a 3-minute lap time, so he must have also had a spin and gone and cut the middle of the track, because we've got a yellow flag out for something.
Can't see. It looks like Big Dog might have been. Oh, Big Dog has had
Brian Walsh,
an issue.
Brian Walsh is travelling slowly.
And maybe there was an incident there because Big Dog is on the pit entry going very, very slowly as well. And the front left of that car looking decidedly dented.
Well, we're just going to go to a replay of Big Dog. No, Big Dog did it on his own by the looks of it. Lost it on the grass and then off into the boonies. And he's driven into a tree. So Big Dog has, as he was trying to recover from that spin, his front left hit one of those trees, which obviously you can't drive through, and he's got a big ding on the front left of his car.
Simpson. Oh, Simpson.
And
Trees
now,
well known for being very solid.
Tree.
And well, we've got Shane Witt now is closed. Oh! Was that a bird? Shane Witt is 1.3 behind Gary Neville now.
And we're on the final lap, so Brendan Ross, take nothing away from him as he enters the second sector of 3. Doing very, very well indeed and managing that gap perfectly. Jonah has closed in, but I think Ross is just bringing this one home.
Shane Witt now only 1.2 seconds off Gary Neville for 3rd place, so this one may not be quite done yet. So it will take a Herculean final lap.
Looks like it's under
ahead of Gary Neville.
It looks like he's under a second now. He's been
that gap now on my screen is going up and down a bit as they go through different parts of the track, but as low as 0.6 of a second.
So
I think it might just be too little, too late for Shane Witt, but we will find out shortly.
Motorsport and sim racing is a funny thing. There is a corner. Obviously, that triple chicane up ahead is tricky. Bit of pressure there, and Gary could throw it off the road, so you never know. But we join Brendan Ross now as he comes through a final turn. I believe this will be his first victory. Flashes the lights out of the final turn, and Brendan Ross will take race 1 in the second round.
Well deserved.
Kept it clean, had the pace, and in the end a comfortable victory from Luke Joyner in P2, who was very solid.
Yeah, great job Brendan Ross, absolutely. This has been a long time coming. It was a matter of when rather than if for him, and
Gary Neville just holding off Shane Witt as they cross the line there.
And
we had some magnificent reverse doughies and suicidal moves.
This is this is why I said this the other week. This is why we tune into this. The reverse doughies. And the
ensuing chaos, I like to think, is due to my great leadership skills. Telling people that if they don't do burnouts, drive into each other at the end of a race,
well,
they're banned.
I do remember that from the V8 practicing at Simmons
It's been
Plains.
going on a lot longer than that.
But that was my first memory of it. Simmons Plains, we did those practice races, and after every race there was everybody on the server doing donuts or driving into each other.
We've missed something reminiscing there, Lewis. Oh my giddy aunt, Mike Coulson, if your shoulder was still attached, it no longer is, or hip, whichever way you're standing.
I thought I saw Big Dog drive right into Brendan Ross, but then his car
Disappeared.
glitched onto the other side of the circuit, and Brendan Ross able to continue his reverse donuts.
Well, it was picked up on the stream, so we'll be able to watch that on replay. That is what it looked like. So what did Mike Coulston do?
Oh! That's
I think we were both watching that one.
Lot of parts as a wheel flies in
Airtime,
front of
and
me.
that's interesting. Multiple. Well, that is.
The Big Dog down to about a quarter of a car here.
Luke Joyner just down there by the plaque where we laid to rest several hundred members of the crowd the last time the Rookie Cup.
Just paying his respects there.
Paying homage to the race fans. We all know every time you go to an event, a motorsport event, the ticket says that motorsport is dangerous and there is a chance of death. And can't think of a better way to
It's
die.
guaranteed with the Rookie Cup. At the end of this race, it was much like the basketball match between Australia and I can't remember who.
The Philippines.
That's the one, and I think everyone knows what I'm talking about there.
Sure do.
It was.
In fact, I'm going to go on YouTube and have a watch of that again.
It was more reminiscent of basketball than basketball.
And boom goes the dynamite.
So, race one, obviously that's taken out by Brendan Ross. Kept it very clean. Had a great start and went from start to finish and didn't really look too phased with what was going on behind him. While
it would seem Aussie blew his motor going from pits to the grid, which sounds a bit made up.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't know how one would manage to do that in one of these cars, but
well,
he's done
maybe
it.
our pit lane reporter, Lord Fotherington, can answer that question. Mr. Fotherington, or Lord Fotherington, are you there?
Yeah.
How did Aussie to his engine?
I don't know. The foggiest idea.
I see.
Worth it. 100% worth it.
I can tell you one thing.
Yes.
Yeah, Paolo, are you with us? That was worth a try.
Hello.
Hello,
Oh, it's Paolo. There he is.
hello, it's me, it's Paolo.
It's been a while, my friend. Good to see you.
You cannot see me.
Did you like that race?
I thought it was an excellent race. I especially liked the bit where Alain Prost and Bruno Senna's love child came third. That was most exciting.
I don't remember that bit, but anyway, your voice has changed a little bit, hasn't it?
Paolo is trying to be very quiet because Paolo's girlfriend will hurt Paolo.
Oh, okay.
Paolo is too loud.
Well, how have you been enjoying the Ecuadorian climate?
It is a little bit hotter than Paolo is used to. As
Really?
Paolo
From a
is
Spanish
from,
country?
Paolo is from Spain, which, is well known for being frigid.
Oh, yes.
So
Not like
Ecuador
the...
is oh,
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, not like the tropical heat of Finland.
I've never been to Finland, but I can tell you that the summers in Iceland are a right bitch.
The summers.
Yes.
Is that because of all the light?
Yes, it is. It's very bright there, and the snow reflects the light, which causes more heat.
Your
I do
voice
know what
is. Did your testicles drop during this interview?
It has
Well,
been a long time.
it has
coming.
been a long interview, but nonetheless, the cars are
Paulo
coming
away!
out of the pits, and David Keane and Brendan Ross are bottlenecked at the end of that pit entry, which resembles something like the exit of a U-pullet with the fences there. Do you have U-pullets in other parts of the country? I don't know. Maybe it's an Adelaide thing.
My main question is David Keane actually allowed to race?
Oh, well, that's a good question. And perhaps that's a question best answered by Lewis Wedding, who's not here, apparently. So maybe
No,
you can answer it.
he is. He is.
Oh, here he is.
He is eligible,
He is
but
eligible.
with a weight penalty.
Aha. So David Keane's been on the Christmas turkeys.
Yep, a couple turkeys and couple extra servings of dessert and custard as well.
So See ya.
All right, and well, welcome back. I've finally unmuted us. I apologise for all that. That was completely 100% my fault. Just thought it was O, but it was actually 0 that I meant to press on my keyboard. So complete pleb, just like my internet. So obviously we have updated championship points. And well, welcome back. I've finally unmuted us. We've got updated championship points that Stairs has updated for us. Currently leading the championship on 33 points is Brendan Ross.
Sorry. I'm not meant to laugh, so I can't help it.
As Scruff loses.
Who's leading?
Brendan Ross is currently leading the championship with a 5th, a 2nd, and the win in the first race. He's on 33 points. Topher is P2 with a 2nd and 2 thirds. And David Keane is 3rd with his 2 wins on 30 points. Gary Neville, P4 on 26. And then Mike Coulston, 14. Luke Joyner, 12. The Big Duke on 9. Shane Witt, 6. Walsh, 5. Ads 5. Glenn Miles with 3. Steve with 2. And Aussie with 0 with his DNS. So we're about to get underway as Brendan Ross wants to roll back into Topher for God knows whatever reason.
Bit of a slight incline on the start here, but it'll be very interesting to see how the championship looks with them also close at the top of that leaderboard.
And obviously David Keane.
Warm-up lap gets underway.
Yeah, with David Keane is here for this one, so that's yeah, obviously the top 4 there, very close with only 7 points separating them. So we'll just run through the grid for you once more. We've got Steve P1. We got Brendan Ross in P2. Shane Witt P3. Topher in P4. In P5 we've got David Keane returning with a 50 kilogram weight ballast. We've got Scruff losing his shit. And we've got Gary Neville in P6. P7 is Luke Joyner. Ads, he's in P8. Mike Coulston, P9. Brian Walsh, P10. The Big Duke in P11. And then Glenn Miles in P12.
And Aussie once again.
Well, he's lining up this time.
This is a million times better than race 1.
So,
good to see everyone making it this time to the grid.
No.
Well, Aussie, he's got his car going. He's not on the grid, but we're halfway through. If you can hear some random bird noises, that's because we're in Ecuador, and well, they've got a lot of birds over there. As
1,600 bird species, actually. 15% of the world's known bird species.
Well, there you go. That's a lot of birds.
Oh, and there's one in front of Aussie, just flying down. I can see it. There it is.
I believe that's a seagull. There's plenty of seagulls around here. Obviously, with a big lake over there to the left of Aussie. Yeah,
1,600
lake gulls.
1,600 species of bird, and we get a freaking seagull.
He's just nicked someone's chip. I can see it.
Oh, we got someone going around. Who's going around?
It's Ross.
That is.
It's Ross. He's got damage. He's got front end damage on that thing. He should
Hopefully not too bad.
He should either pull into the pits or actually start from the pit lane, because that's gonna probably overheat that thing, and it'd certainly cost him.
It's got a big hole in the grill. Well, I mean, I know he's. No, he's probably listening, and this is why you're not my hero anymore.
But he did win a race, though. He did recover in the race.
Recover.
But yeah, that's going to cost him.
Championship lead to protect.
That's going to cost him down the straights, though. That kind of damage, and he's missed his grid slot to boot. So he's not. Oh, he's gone too far back now, and it's going to have to go forward.
That's a frowny face.
That's
It really is.
I think looks like he's broken his nose. We're about to get underway.
Where we are.
And we're away. It looks like Keane got a good start back there. He's up. Well, they're 3 wide. Shane Witt, David Keane, and Gary Neville, and Topher's got another great start. Topher's up to P2. He's jumped up 2 spots already. Gary Neville and
a great start from the crippled Brendan Ross as well.
Topher, the start
master.
Oh,
and Stephen Gary Neville made contact between 1 and 2 there.
Start master stairs. Hell, I mean, that hurts.
Oh, and we've got a bit of biff. They're going to go 3 wide into 3. This is not going to end well. This is not going
Doesn't
to
go.
end
I
well.
dare say he's giving him a rather big
In
biff
the
there.
inside booth, Luke Joyner as well. There's a number of cars off the track.
Oh, another bit of a biff for Gary Neville.
I don't believe it. No one has been T-boned through all that. I thought it was going to
David
happen.
Keane and Gary Neville, they are very close.
Oh, and there goes Joyner. Joyner's off.
Fotherington?
Yes.
So that's not good. Big Dog's been shuffled to the back behind. Well, Aussie's got going 10 seconds behind them, so at least he's made it to the track this time.
But he's probably...
Aussie will win this race.
Big call.
Well,
Thank you.
Brendan Ross has found his
Just like
way
that.
into the lead after all that.
This thing over there.
So Ross has found his way into the lead, even though he's got a broken nose on that thing.
He does.
That
He'll need some rhinoplasty on his Mini, but Topher's monstering him from behind as the duck-billed swallow goes by my left ear.
oh, Topher's lost it.
Topher's
He's done it again.
Oh, huge accident! Reminiscent of what happened in the first race.
He's done it.
Disaster for Topher.
He's
I
done
was
it
just
again.
about to say that
Oh,
was
we've got
the
another one.
strategy
We've got another one. I believe it's Glenn Miles off. Yeah, Glenn Miles is off. He's done the same thing, but he's not ripped the wheel off. And
David Keane's gone very wide at the final corner and has dropped back 3 positions.
Well, Topher's got it going, and he hasn't gone into the pits, so
Well-
he thinks he can continue
well,
that bug-eyed Mini.
that's a Terminator looking thing. That Mini. That certainly,
Well, it certainly is back.
and it's got a bung eye. That left.
Shoot out, dickwad.
Well,
Well,
the aero wouldn't be too good on that thing, but the cooling is excellent. As we see Glenn Miles off again.
and Big Dog, bit of a tour of the grass as well.
So
As Brendan Ross and Steve.
Oh, Big Dog set a tank slapper, and he's going off as well into the.
oh, he's rolled it! He's rolled it! He's on his roof. That's style points. We have to replay that one.
Big Dog!
The big dog has had the big one.
This has gone from bad to worse for the commentary here, boys.
So
Well,
Sorry to everyone.
dearie me.
so
Oh, I hear noises, I hear death, I hear Glenn Miles into a fence and Aussie not into a
so
fence.
at turn 3, big dog lost it, overcorrected it, and then has ended up onto the berm and well
The berm.
got hang time there on his roof. So for season 2, Big Dog currently leads the style points.
Miles looks like he's going to have to retire here or spend the next 15 minutes trying to get his car back to the pits.
And Shane Witt and Gary Neville are battling for P3.
Oh, we got someone else off. It's Luke Joyner has gone off at the final corner.
Gary
And
Neville
Luke
running
Joyner-
wide again with that damage.
And I believe Steve on that last lap got a track cut because his time on the last lap did not count. So he must have done it in the first sector. Shane Witt, fastest lap, a 39.5.
So these track cuts, as common as a tawny-breasted tinamou here, and they're really causing havoc amongst the field here. So a lot of these guys who've had damage early on could quite easily get these places back when other people go a lap down.
And well, Ross, it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, he doesn't repair that damage. If he wants to win this race, he's gonna have to finish the race with that damage because it'll cost him too much time in the pits. There's Steve behind him is very good in that first sector. He's now right behind him, and behind him we've got Ads and Shane Witt going at it. Ads having a look, and Ads getting it done nicely there. So Ads moves up. He's now up 4 spots to P4. Obviously not a great qualifier, but he's been very handy in the races so far, and he's also got a bit of front end damage on that thing. Slight broken nose.
Mike Coulson having a few issues trying to get that car turned. Doesn't look like he has any damage, but he does have David Keane not too far behind who will be looking for a way through.
Keane down 3
More
spots.
broken noses than a night down at Hindley Street, so not
That feels like a very localised joke.
more localised than a horned screamer flying through the commentary box window.
And Stewie setting the fastest lap that time around, 39.4.
To be said, Brendan Ross standing up to the pressure from Steve quite well.
He's doing quite well so far. As Steve cuts the chicane, he's in the barrier. He's in the barrier. He used a bit of that curve, and he's in a dangerous area. He's in a dangerous area. And there's contact.
Shane Witt.
He's over. He's over. Ads is over on his roof. He's on his roof.
Oh my goodness, this has gone from disaster to bad.
Oh, Shane Witt coming back on dangerously there. I think David Keane just narrowly avoiding him.
So it's all kicked off here. Poor Ads there, innocent victim. Let's go back and have a look at that. So
the closing speed was very dangerous there.
So it all kicked off with Steve just turning in too much. Losing the back end, and that was all she wrote, and he was in the barrier.
This has all been uglier than the Ecuadorian naked wandering turkey.
And then
those things are very, very vicious, but Brendan Ross finds himself.
Steve, it would appear, has gone off. Steve has gone off.
He has gone off. That Mini is it's a crab now. It's not a car. It is a crab, and he'll need to pit.
So that thing's been staved in the front left.
So
it doesn't look very good at all. And that thing is limping around the circuit. So Brendan Ross finds himself in much the same position as the first race, and very comfortably out front. 5-second lead from Gary Neville. Luke Joyner in third. We're going to have a similar podium to the first race.
Steve is in the pits, as we could expect. Significant ease.
And we've got Shane Witt now. He's going to have to try and battle his way up through the field once again. We saw on the replay that he was the one that caused poor Ads to end up on his roof as Shane Witt goes wide.
Speaking of Ads, who's coming into the pits, he looks like he at the moment is driving a beach buggy from the front. There's that little car left there.
No, so he's had more further damage. That must have been from later on in the lap, because I believe his car was fairly intact after that.
I think Ads flipped. But there was that much going on at the time. We were all sort of going.
Yes, he did flip. That was the one that we talked about before, where he was unfortunately he had to take avoiding action with the poor rejoin from Steve and on his roof.
He took avoiding action, and Shane Witt was just behind him, and he got on the brakes, and Shane Witt didn't quite get on the brakes early or quick enough, and obviously he ended up in the back of him and put poor all Ads on his roof. But
meanwhile, Keane and Coulston look to be the closest battle on track that we have at the moment.
Unfortunately, like the Galapagos tortoise, these things don't do very well on their roofs, and thankfully the game resets them back onto their wheels, but unfortunately the tortoises don't often have that luxury.
And we see Shane Witt in the pits. He was behind Brian Walsh there.
Ads just coming back out on track now in front of David Keane.
And,
obviously a lap down.
But fresh looking Mini, nice and clean, unlike most of the other Minis you see, with some knocks here and there.
Just like a grey-fronted dove.
Yes.
And yes, David Keane and Mike Coulson being the closest battle on track at the moment.
I'm just waiting to hear this. There we go.
Gary Neville the fastest in the first sector on this lap, so the gap's come down from about 6.5 seconds to just under 6.
The trouble is Nicole keeps putting a bird seed on the balcony.
Always you see Mike Coulson disappearing there, but that's what happens when you're in the Middle East. You get some shoddy internet connections, a bit of lag, and that's Big Dog, I believe, with a lot of damage to his Mini. He's travelling around very slowly.
Luke Joyner's closing in on Gary Neville. That could become a story to talk about shortly. That's about a 2-second advantage to Neville at the moment, but about a second faster is Luke Joyner per lap.
Yeah, he hasn't had a good lap this lap, Gary Neville. His mid-sector was very slow. We see Luke Joyner getting a bit sideways, and then he's going into the pits, so
Looks like Stove will be on the back of Topher very shortly. There's less than a second between them at the moment.
Well,
That would be a fight for ninth place, something neither of them would have been hoping for at the start of the race.
Well, they're both qualified at the front, so you'd think, you know, if you're just joining us now, that they'd be battling it out for possibly the lead or for a spot on the podium, but they're battling for ninth place at the moment, with Topher's Mini looking more like the Terminator.
Ferocious though, if it gets in your mirrors, that'll scare the lights out of you, I think.
You certainly wouldn't want to look at that thing in the dark. Down a dark alleyway, it would, yeah, you'd probably go running. As you see Steve getting it a little bit sideways. I don't think his tyres are a bit appreciative of some of the slides he's been doing this evening, but he's had a fair amount of pace. Just a bit of bad luck in the races so far as Topher. Bit of warp in there.
That's just part of the Terminator technology.
That's it, bit of cloaking device there.
Do like a good cloaking device.
And still, you've got a good exit on the final turn there.
Fastest lap of the race is Steve with a 39.3.
Yeah, so he's a second faster than race leader Brendan Ross on that last lap. He was the only one. Well, there was Topher was a 1 minute 40.9 and Ross is at 1 minute 40.5, and well, Steve 39.3. So he's significantly faster.
Yeah, he's all over the back of Topher here like a pit bull and a poodle.
But but he has made a couple mistakes in both races, which has, well, cost him both races really, because his pace-wise has been better than everybody else's really.
Well, you can teach consistency. It's harder to teach pace. So Steve will only improve in that regard.
That's, well, I've seen a lot of fast races over my time, and some of them just don't get it. So hopefully, with this Rookie Cup, he does smooth out these consistency issues. It gets very close to Topher. I don't know if
Sorry,
that was...
guys. We've just got a few guys in the pits at the moment. David King just leaving. Gary Neville, Brian Walsh, and someone else who I
Gary
don't think was
Neville
there.
is going to have Shane Witt right behind him. So Shane Witt has jumped Brian Walsh but he's not going to jump Gary Neville or David Keane.
David Keane coming out right behind Aussie here.
Oh!
There's.
It's ding-dong battle is continuing between Steve and Topher, and Steve not shy of a curb.
And we see, oh, Shane Witt has passed Gary Neville into turn 3 there, so obviously at speed, he had more speed coming out of the final turn than Neville coming out of the pits, and he's got the good run and got in front of him there, so Shane Witt up to 6th now, and David Keane passed Aussie for 4th place. I don't think Aussie's pitted yet. And Luke joining it all sideways in 3rd. Coulston in 2nd at the moment. He's doing a nice job, but he's 18 seconds behind Ross, who we see entering the pits now. Now, will he fix that damage, or has he told his crew not to?
Well, fingers crossed he's remembered, because otherwise that's going to prove very costly for him, and that would quite possibly put could put Luke Joyner in contention for the win.
Certainly could. So,
no, he's away, so he's remembered. Well done.
And we're looking at Big Dog at the moment, and I think every Big Dog has got some big damage on that thing. He's got, I think, just about every panel on that thing, including the rear wing, is dented, except for the left-hand side of his car. But he's still going out there, which is what we'd like to see.
Some sort of record. Done a good job.
Good few battles out here at the moment. King just going around the outside of Coulston, who may have just come out of the pits, getting out of everyone's way again. So he does that.
Coulston was in P2, so I believe he's just pitted, and he's he's lost out a couple spots there.
Gary Neville doing very well once again, as we hear someone in the background, or foreground, or ground.
Oh, that was Gary Neville. He ran a little bit wide on the grass, but he kept it going.
Just a quick correction on the points I gave you from earlier, because I took it from the
David
live
Keane
races.
with a rallycross line. Sorry, stairs.
I took the live races result, which is utter horseshit, and had the order completely all over the place. So it was actually he had Topher in 3rd, even though he DNF'd. So apologies for that mistake. It's actually Brendan Ross leading by 3 points from Keane, Neville in 3rd with 28 points.
Well, thanks for the update. obviously live races, and even the results. Obviously, we saw from the Formula One. Both a couple of us uploaded some results into the program that gives us the results, and well, it wasn't counting people's final sectors, so it sort of threw the results out a little bit. So
Yes, hence the strange order, which seems to have gone back a lap or two.
yes, so we've got Ross has got an 8-second lead over Joyner at the moment, and I don't think Joyner is going to close that gap. He seems to be losing touch a little bit. But David Keane has got Shane Witt right behind him, and Shane is looking pretty racy at the moment. Keane, I believe, has just exited the pit lane.
Topher and Steve look to be continuing their races. Brian Walsh is around into the wall, way into the final corner.
And that's
That
a wheel
car-
gone.
Yeah, that car doesn't want to move. He's revving the absolute nuts off the bastard.
He's turning at the... Well, he should... Yeah, he's not going to
Aussie
get
in the
that
pits
going.
too.
He's not going to get that going. As we see Topher...
As we see
think
him
both-
get it going.
Managed to
no, we
move.
don't.
He's managed to lose both front wheels, I think, somehow.
No, he's got his
still
right
got
front.
one.
He's got his right front there, as we see
Oh, yeah.
Steve and Topher still going at it there. The old Terminator. Terminator Topher.
Steve looks like he may be able to get a bit of a run on
And
over here.
Aussie's exited the pit, so that might close off an avenue for him. But they both should get out in front of him. And they do.
Fresh tyres.
Oh, Steve putting
Both.
two wheels on the dirt though. Steve, sorry.
Oh, it's Topher. Bit of lag there, but it looked like he lost the back end of it. They're both very conservative through turn 2. Steve having a look. He's going
Up
for
the
it.
inside.
And
She's still trying to make it to the track. I don't know what he's trying to achieve here.
Topher
Oh,
tried
Topher.
to go around the outside, but just not enough grip there. And Steve gets that position. It's P7.
He's nearly made it back to the track, but he's going to blow his engine before he gets there. I'd love to see his temperatures, is Brian Walsh.
Well, hopefully if he does get back on the track, he doesn't run into anybody, because it will be a tough area, but I don't think he'll make it anyway. That car will be bottoming out, so I think he's beached. And Gary Neville's found his way up into P3, so
It's dead.
No, the engine's still running.
I believe.
He's given
back-
up though.
back to
He's
the
given up.
pits.
So Gary Neville's got past Shane Witt, and I believe something's happened. I don't think that was for P3 earlier, so I believe something's happened as both Keane and Coulston there
Yeah, they're very close together.
are both in unison on the grass at turn 1 there.
Oh, Coulston just a little bit sideways there, but holds it together nicely. Looks as though Topher's had an issue, as he's dropped back behind Aussie now.
I don't believe I don't know if Topher had pitted or not.
Same top
no,
four as race
he's-
1.
Topher's still going. He's now just under 3 seconds behind Steve, with Aussie between them. So it looks like he's just made a mistake, maybe run off somewhere and lost a couple seconds, which has let Aussie get through.
So Mike Coulston at the moment is is Keane. His brakes very late. As that's certainly
Bit
not
of
what you
lag there.
certainly not what you want. Is
Oof.
David Keane and
Certainly
Coulston.
not.
I think Coulston letting him go there, realizing that he'd walked.
Apparated onto the other side of David Keane, very confusingly. That certainly makes it difficult with your racecraft. David Keane up into 5th place.
I think Coulston realised what had happened, and he just let him go there, because I've seen it in iRacing, I've seen it in R Factor, where someone's disappeared and then reappeared in another car, and someone ends up in space at that point. So,
Well, in iRacing, that would give everyone a
Ooh,
massive
Aussie.
incident report and cost them any hope of ever moving out of the way of the worst drivers in the world.
Aussie off and Topher through into 8th. Oh, and Aussie off again. He's he's being challenged by his car here.
We seem to have settled down in the commentary box.
Well, there seems to be a bit of a lull in the race at the moment, but Neville and Witt still the closest battle on the track. So
as we see Keane in the background getting it sideways, and he's going to lose position. Is he to? No, he's not going to lose position to Coulston. But oh no, he is. He's locked up now. So
he's
Keane
just gone deep there.
He
Everyone's favourite spot to play marbles.
made a mistake in turn 3, and then he's played marbles as you said there.
Well, you can dig a hole, but the koala doesn't have to sit in it.
And now he's stuck behind Blinky Bill.
Hey!
And he's going to have to find his way past.
As Witt looking
big
very
dog,
aggressive behind Neville now. Starting to look a little bit impatient here, Shane.
Well, it's only 3 laps to go. Brendan Ross still leading. He's looking for back-to-back victories here.
Oh, and Coulston's still having this lag, disappearing and coming back like Nutsy. And
Nutsy.
gonna be very confusing for Kay not knowing where Coulston is.
And Big Dog with the big damage getting out of the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very big off the racing line.
Big off the racing line! Doesn't work as well, does it?
I like this banked corner. It puts hairs on your eyeballs.
It'll be interesting.
Your eyeballs.
It'll be interesting in the Farmer 400, that corner, with cars being significantly faster. I'm sure there's going to be someone try and go side by side through there, and I'm pretty sure we will see some more people in the stands, probably killed.
Well, hopefully they
Hopefully
wait till the end of the race to do that, so that it's not as attritional as some of the races we've seen. But Gary Neville is hanging on quite respectedly. Not a word.
Respectfully.
Resplendidly.
Quite good. He's hanging on quite good here. There you go.
He's doing a top-notch job, Cobber.
He is. He is.
Oh, fucking a ripper that is.
That's it, as he runs wide through there, but you can do that through that turn. He's sustained the pressure very well, because they've been like this for practically, well, since the pit stops really, a lap after the pit stops, because Shane Witt was in front of him, I believe. He did get in front of him initially.
Very defensive there from Neville.
Incredibly, and I don't think Shane was expecting.
Forced him onto the outside line.
Well, it's an off-camber corner. You don't want to be on the outside there. You're not going to pass anyone around the outside unless the person on the inside practically stops for you.
Gary Neville's a wily bastard.
And they've got Luke Joyner 4 seconds up the road.
Aussie has retired.
And Luke Joyner
on
that last lap made a mistake and dropped 2 seconds. He did a 42.8 that lap. So
yeah, these two can see him now. It's not that far up the road.
Shane Witt.
Gary Neville once again so much earlier on the brakes, and Shane Witt's going to drive around the outside of him. Round the outside.
Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it as the corner tightens. And no, he hasn't been able to get onto the inside line. They're driving well here, Gary Neville.
This is the last lap, so if you
That's gone by quickly.
It has been a very quick race. As Gary Neville runs wide, it's going to give Shane Witt a chance, and he covers it off. It doesn't give him a chance to dive bomb there.
Might have one more opportunity at the final corner.
So it's all about now getting that chicane right and blocking off the inside, because he won't get around the outside.
That rear right tyre up in the air as he goes over the curb. Coming up to the final corner.
Well, Brendan Ross is at the final turn, but we'll watch this battle.
2 from 2 for Brendan Ross.
Yeah,
fantastic job.
Done a great job.
Break open the floodgates.
2 from 2, but we'll cut back. And Witt goes very late, but he can't pull it up. Joyner is going to finish P2 once again on the podium. Mr. Consistency.
Fantastic job by Gary Neville holding off Shane Witt there, as a bird has come through the window and struck you in the side of the head there, Lewis. I hope you're okay.
Yeah, you're right.
I am a bit sore, but well, there's not much in there to damage anyway. So, as we
to the bird seat.
As we see David Keane roll it onto his roof. Unfortunately, fellas, the style points is only for the race. So if it's after the race, it doesn't count, lads.
Oh.
So.
And for anybody wondering, there will be a third race because I feel racing. And I made that up. There won't be a third race.
Oh, good.
So we see some reverse doughies there, which is what we've come to see and enjoy from all these front-wheel drive
back
series.
on the stream now.
And we see, I believe that's Coulston's front end is gone, and Joyner's dinged his thing up, and I believe Ross was doing doughies off in the distance there, in front of
Oh, goodness.
one of the only grandstands. So,
It's unlucky for the people in that grandstand.
as you see, Stoive have a massive accident there, and Topher, the Terminator, not too happy with
Rossi!
his race.
He doesn't have all of his wheels now.
And Joyner and Ross both on their roofs. There's a fan, as we see, a fan up on the hill there. He's got his hands up in the air. He's loving it.
There's one on fire.
That fire's hot.
Just near the pit lane. It's an interesting new look.
Well,
Can't pick it up on camera.
That has
I was hoping you weren't going to try.
championship implications of that round is that Brendan Ross has stretched it out to a 10-point advantage, with Gary Neville. He's got 3 podiums from 4 races on 38 in second place. David Keane in third.
Oh, you know what they say.
Love is blind.
Exactly.
Special.
So the final results from this round, we'll go over it once again. Was obviously Brendan Ross taking 2 from 2 tonight, and Luke Joyner in the second race there, P2, come through the field to get P2, and Gary Neville holding off Shane Witt fantastically there for would have been a good 5 or 6 laps there under sustained pressure, and he got P3, Shane Witt P4, and I'll need to actually check live races to see who finished after that. Unfortunately,
the rest of the field.
Don't take everything from live races with a pinch of salt, because it can tell you furfies or even porkies.
It can. Well, going by live races, we had Mike Coulston in P5, followed by David Keane, and then and then we had Steve, who got pole position in both races, but a couple of costly mistakes, and he had poor starts in both races, which probably didn't help him. He finished down there in P7, and then Topher, he wrote the front of the car off in race 1 and DNF'd, and on the first lap in race 2 he did it again, but kept it going, even though his car resembled more the skeleton of a Terminator than a Mini. He finished P8, but still valuable points there. He kept going. Ads finished P4, ended up on his roof after an unfortunate incident after avoiding an accident and then getting rear-ended. And then he was followed by the Big Dog. And then it was the 3 retirements. It was Aussie, Brian Walsh, and Glenn Miles all DNFing with accidents.
And I believe our man down in the pit lane stairs has found our race winner, Brendan Ross. Stairs, have you got Brendan Ross with you? Yes, I believe I do. Brendan Ross, are you with us?
Hi, Stairs. Thanks for getting me.
Pleasure. You've broken through tonight, and when it rains, it pours. 2 wins from 2 races.
Yes, 2 from 2. I don't know how I won that second race.
You finished before the other cars.
Well, it looked like you had it pretty much under control.
Oh, except for a steering wheel that was 45 degrees to the left.
Goodness me.
Well, I think that warm-up lap must have been the quickest lap.
Yes, tell us about that. Off on the warm-up lap.
I would love to tell you, but I think the wheel just snapped out of me hand, so I don't know what happened there.
Must have been the birds.
Just useless turkeys.
It does help when the steering wheel is in your hand, but so not a bad effort, obviously, with the damage sustained on that formation lap. Did you think of pitting and fixing that damage on the formation lap? Because you can do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to see how it went. So took the risk, and the risk worked. So seemed like everybody else fell behind me. So.
Well, you got decent starts in both the races. Obviously, in the second one, you obviously got into the lead at the start and then just avoided the carnage that ensued behind you. But the first race again had a little bit of pressure, and then again, obviously, those behind you sort of fell away.
Yes, yes. So they all fell behind. I was definitely not the quickest one in that race. So if people were behind me, they would have passed me easy. So I was lucky in that one.
But obviously, that's the main thing about obviously these rookie races and or just racing in general is that you know, to finish first, you first have to finish, and you've been on the other end plenty of times where you've been in these positions of looking to get a win and thrown away, and then this time it's the other way around. So it's probably a good feeling in some way.
It's definitely a good feeling. I was just waiting for me to step up then, but luckily I didn't.
Tonight was your night, mate. Soak it up, enjoy it.
It was. I'd just like to dedicate this win to my only fan. He'll remain anonymous. Anonymous.
Certainly not Scruff because well, he's thrown you under the bus and is no longer, you know, you're no longer his hero. So,
it worked for him, didn't it?
Well, it didn't last round, so
It's his own fault.
But yeah, once again, congratulations. 2 races, 2 wins. Not the fastest, but you're the fastest over the line in the race, and well, that's all that matters.
No, thank you. I'll hopefully come out stronger next race.
Hopefully so. So, all right. We've been haven't been joined by anybody else. So
we have Gary Neville actually.
no, we do.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Well, we were joined by Cruiser, but who is Steve, but he's promptly
He's
jumped
left
out.
subsequently upon hearing you say, "Yes, I'm here."
So
And why are you mocking my accent?
I didn't know he was a
Oh,
posh
I'm not
lady, but
mocking-
that's a
mocking
new
your
one.
accent.
All right, so
That's obviously Gary Neville.
So to wrap this up, obviously the coming events, I believe we've got the Super Series this Thursday, I believe, Stairs.
You better believe it.
Which
Albert Park.
Albert Park. So that'll be a big test for those things. Obviously, beefed up Lancers. I'm expecting some
And then the R.
and the R. Well, that's going to be. Has the R been beefed up for that? I can't remember.
I think it is just terrible.
Maybe just a bit of veal, not quite so much beef.
Well, hopefully it's had something added to it because otherwise that's going to have a good 3-minute lap time around that circuit.
It's a baby duck.
But hopefully we get some more entertaining. Hopefully get some more entertaining racing on Thursday. Obviously the first round went down pretty well with a couple new winners and some good racing in both the classes. And then on Sunday night we have the return of WEC from Monza, which I believe is 2 hours, Scruff, or has it been knocked down to an hour and a half?
Currently 2 hours, depending on further testing on the frames.
So there it is. There's currently it is the 2 hours of Monza. So
It's the whack of Monza.
so have a WEC at Monza, and
I don't
You
get
had
it.
to do that without getting arrested.
You can't do that in public.
so
You shouldn't even do it at home, if we're honest.
So those that obviously have missed a couple of the rounds in the WEC, hopefully we get a full grid, and hopefully you see some more good racing in that one. Obviously, certainly LMP2 class had a fantastic race at Sebring in the previous round in WEC.
Yeah, we've had a couple disappointing turnouts. Well, not really. Round 2 was a good turnout, but the round 1 was a bit appalling, and a few guys who haven't shown up yet, and their spots in the series will be coming under serious question if they don't make an appearance soon.
And that is also a point in the Formula 1 series. Those that have signed up but have not given an explanation or not shown up for the races, they will have their seats removed and you'll need to re-register, which I'm sure that's probably going to happen in the WEC as well. So if you can't make it, you've got to let admins know, or you need to, if you can't race full time, give up your seat and just race on a temporary basis. Other series coming up, obviously next Monday nights, we've got the touring cars coming up. I'm just trying to remember which circuit that's at, which is pretty poor of me because I should know.
Do you remember all the ones that you don't run, but otherwise you're screwed?
Whatever CAM is short for is the next round for the TCC series.
Campo Grande.
Camberwell.
No, it's we're at Campo Grande, and
Campo Grande.
It's pretty
We need
grand.
power to say that.
So yeah, there obviously we've got Super Series Thursday, WEC on Sunday, and on the Monday we've got Campo Grande with the touring cars. So once again, apologies for our my average, our good commentary, but my terribly run in not pressing the mute button or unmute in qualifying for race 2. But once again, thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and we hope to see you next time. Cheers.
See you later in the WEC.